Which 5 players would you pick to impact Michigan football the most in this coming 2025 season? Well, I have some names that I want to get to and tell you in regards to Michigan football. I think that obviously Bryce Underwood has to be number 1 on this list. This is my top 5, who I think the top 5 most impactful players will be. Not who I think they could be. This is my opinion factored in with my objective analysis. I think that some players who could be on here, if I weren't giving my opinion, but just looking at the roster objectively and saying, okay, who can move the team the most? Not who I think will, but who can. I think that Zeke Berry would be on the list. I think that Jashawn Barham would be on the list. I think that Evan Link and maybe Andrew Babalola would be on the list. But I'm higher on these players relative to their position than those players, to a certain degree by quite a margin, depending on the player you ask me about. I mean, Babalola, for example, is young, true freshman offensive tackle. If he breaks out, starts, and immediately is an all-Big Ten offensive tackle, then Bryce Underwood saying he'll win that many national championships might come to fruition, honestly. But I'm not quite there yet with Babalola. I'm not. I think he'll be good, but starting as a true freshman at offensive tackle is very rare. Takes a certain type of talent, of energy, of mindset, of learning the playbook, and just being a great football player to do. And I don't know if I'm going to expect a true freshman to do that. Link has had his struggles. Barry has had his struggles. Barham has. Barham honestly just barely missed the list. Before we resume this segment, please take a few seconds of your time to make sure you have liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and for any team podcasts and playlists linked in the description, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section and join my Discord server via the description. All of those things I just asked you to do are completely free, and they sign you up for things related to my channel, or they don't sign you up for anything. No cost to you, and all the benefit to you because we release daily college football content here on College Football with Sam. If you want to support the channel monetarily, sign up for a YouTube membership, or check any other links in the description for my merchandise store and Patreon page. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the segment. Defensive line is featured here a bunch because I'm high on Lou Esposito as a coach, and I think a lot of the players they brought in from the portal on D-line and return are good players who now will be even better now that they have a year under Esposito's belt, and if they were developed beforehand, well, they were coached by Mike Elston, who was one of the best of the best. Let's get back to Bryce Underwood, though. Underwood has to be on here, no matter who you are, no matter what, because even if Underwood busts relative to expectations, he's much better than Davis Warren. He's much better than Alex Orji. And as the number 1 overall prospect in the 2025 class, someone who's viewed by many as much better than Raiola or Lagway was out of high school, though he's a year younger than them, so that obviously pulled some things back. He should have success relative to what Michigan had at quarterback last season. In 2024, he had 2,509 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he had 6 or 7 rushing touchdowns as well. Successful player, has a lot of confidence behind him. He's absolutely yoked, built. I love everything about him. I think he's going to be successful. I thought that Dylan Raiola last year would be a top 20 quarterback in year 1, and I overvalued that a bit. This Michigan supporting cast, with the defense they have, the offensive play caller they have in Chip Lindsey, and with just how talented Underwood is, and a lot of people will tell you this, that he has that potential to be, not as a freshman, but down the road, round 1, pick 1 potential, be a future NFL player, certainly win a Heisman, depending on what Michigan does on offense. I think he has to be number 1. I think at the end of the year, and I've already talked about this on my Michigan season predictions video, link in the top right corner of your screen, and in a reply to the pinned comment, or just in the comment section somewhere. I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback by the end of the year. Very high on Bryce Underwood. Other players to talk about. We have Rashawn Benn and Damon Payne at defensive tackle. Benny's my number 2. Payne's my number 5 for impact players. I have Justice Haynes as my 3rd most impactful player at running back. Derek Moore's my 4th most impactful player D-end. Justice Haynes. Let's talk about him to round out the offense. Then we'll jump back to number 2, Rashawn Benn. 73.5 offensive PFF grade with 305 snaps, and with Alabama last season, 79 carries, 448 rushing yards for 7 touchdowns and 5.7 yards per carry. The way he moved in the spring game with Michigan's O-line, which was clearly behind the defensive line, and against Michigan's defense, he has a level of athleticism to him that, like athleticism and size, that I don't think Edwards had, that I don't know if Corum had. There's a possibility that Justice Haynes is Michigan's best running back of the 2020s. There's a good chance of that. Now, am I picking him to be better than Corum was in 2022 or towards the end of 2023 when I think he was finally 100%? Not quite. Not quite picking that to happen. But I think he'll be better than Edwards was last year. I think he'll at least be as good as Mullings was and certainly have higher upside. And with this Michigan O-line having some of the questions it does at tackle, but having some of the good qualities and players it does at guard, the returning production there, and with Underwood's legs and some of the limitations at wide receiver, I think he's going to have a big year with Michigan. I expect him to have 1,000 rushing yards at the end of the regular season. Going back to Rashawn Benn at defensive tackle, he had an 83.1 defensive PFF grade with 327 snaps. That graded out as highly as Kenneth Grant. Now, is he viewed as a first-round defensive tackle right now? No, I don't think so, but I think he could play his way into that conversation. 29 tackles, 4 TFLs, 1.5 sacks last year, and 2 passes defended. Rashawn Benny's a talented, gritty player. 295 pounds last year, could reach, and probably should reach, 300 pounds this preseason. He's big, he's large, he's a presence on the defensive line, and I think he's ready to step up to do his best to replace Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Be a drop-off from those players for sure, but a drop-off from those players could still mean an elite player. Still an elite player. At 4th, we have Derek Moore at defensive end. Had a 78.9 defensive PFF grade with 480 snaps, 23 tackles, 6 TFLs, 4 sacks, and 2 passes defended. TJ Guy comes back, and he was a rotational defensive end. Same with Cameron Brandt. So there will be competition. But Moore, I think, is poised to have a similar campaign to what Josiah Stewart did last year, where he improved, and he showed a lot of good flashes from 2023 to 2024, and I think Moore will do the same from 24 to 25. He is Michigan's most talented defensive lineman in terms of averaging talent that was observed out of high school and then what he's actually done on the field. He's Michigan's most talented defensive lineman. I think he will be a agent of havoc against any offensive tackle he plays in the Big Ten, or at least most of them. And we have Damon Payne at 5. I don't think Alabama has done a good job in recent memory of developing defensive linemen. Towards the end of the Saban era, I thought that. Like, yes, they had some good edge players. They did, I think, a pretty darn good job at edge developing there. You know, Dallas Turner, Will Anderson, for example. But defensive tackle, I think, was an area that they were lacking at. So Damon Payne going from Alabama to now Lou Esposito, who I think is Michigan's best assistant coach in terms of coaching. Not really recruiting, but development and his proven track record coaching a position. I like Damon Payne to really break out this year and be a force on the defensive line. He had an average, below average, above average, 63 defensive PFF grade with 288 snaps, 14 tackles, and a TFL. He is my pick on this list to really show us something that he hasn't very much come close to in his time as a college football player. And how this relates to Michigan is that Michigan's questions relate to Underwood commanding the offense because quarterback was a huge question for them last year, and they don't have the receivers to really compensate for that. So how elite can Underwood be in year one is a huge question, and I think he will be elite at the end of the year. So that's why he's my number one impact player. And then where are the new NFL freaks, if any of them? I think that Haynes, Moore, and Benny, and maybe Payne, if he plays to his potential that was observed in high school, those could be your freaks. I mean, you have Jayshon Barham, you have Hill at corner, you have, people have talked highly about the tight ends for Michigan and their offensive line in terms of star power is more talented than it's ever been. high school star power, not proven college star power. But they lost a lot in on the defensive line to the NFL and just to the NFL in general with the amount of high picks they produced. My concerns for Michigan relate to wide receiver and tackle. That's why they didn't have any here. Though, if you're high on Donovan McCulley and if you're high on either Evan Link or any of the tackles, they should be in your top 5 because that will radically change how Michigan's offense looked from last year to this year if the tackles do well. I truly think wide receivers especially bad. So if you think Donovan McCulley will have like a 1,000-yard season or be so good that most DBs in the Big Ten at least allow him to get some separation, or he gets some separation on them and forces that, then he should be here. Because Michigan having a legitimate wide receiver 1 would change my prediction of this team, and I'm picking this team to win 10 games. So, really, part of me doesn't get why the staff didn't go after wide receiver harder in the portal, just from a bird's eye view. But I also think they may view this team as a team that can be better in 26 and especially 27. I think the running back room, the interior O-line, D-line, linebacker, special teams, and just the seniority of the team are a strength. They potentially have near elite or elite depth everywhere except for wide receiver, depending on how the roster pans out. And I think that quarterback at the end of the year will be a strength. They bring in 2 5-stars, 18 4-stars, and 19 3-stars when looking at their incoming class of 40, factoring in the portal and high school. They return 65% of their production and are ranked 10th with a 21.5 rating in preseason S&P+. These impact players, I think, will do a really good job of making sure that no one on Michigan's schedule runs on them, and that Michigan will be able to run on a lot of their opponents in their regular season schedule. So their schedule is New Mexico week 1, Oklahoma week 2, Central Michigan week 3, Nebraska week 4, Oklahoma and Nebraska are on the road. They get a bye in week 5, and they host Wisconsin week 6, play at USC week 7, host Washington week 8, Michigan State's on the road week 9, Purdue, they host week 10. After their bye in week 11, they play Northwestern in neutral field week 12, at Maryland week 13, and against Ohio State week 14 at home. I think they will win the rushing battle in all of these games except for maybe USC on the road and maybe Oklahoma on the road. Maybe Michigan State on the road too, because I think Michigan State's O-line and QB combo could be deadly. They also have receivers to keep you honest through the air, and Rossi does a really good job just forcing you to take what little yardage you can and not letting you really ground and pound their defense into total submission. But I think for 9, at the very worst, in 9 games, because of those defensive linemen I mentioned and the running back QB combination with the veteran experience and talent on the interior O-line, Michigan will win the rushing battle and probably game control at least 75% of their opponents, if not 100% of them. Now, that doesn't mean it'll beat all of them. I mean, Ohio State, USC, Michigan State, Washington, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Oklahoma, all of them have better wide receiver groups, and I might even be missing some, honestly. I mean, Michigan's wide receiver room has that many weaknesses, but I look at the amount of talented players and potentially impact players on this defensive line, even with what they lost. I don't think anyone's running on them successfully. Ohio State, nope. USC, probably not. But it helps that USC, unlike Ohio State, has a mobile QB. Oklahoma, maybe. It's early, and Mateer is... I don't think he's a stud NFL-wise or even close to that, and probably not a stud passer, but he is a stud runner and an improvisational genius and mastermind. I think this team's going to do a really good job game controlling their opponents and then adding in the talented QB where your defense gives you some margin for error. Your offensive line at least allows you to run the ball. I don't know if they'll protect you that well, but they'll allow you to run the ball along with the running back room that you have and the tight ends and Max Bredesen at fullback that you have. So you can move the ball. If you are succeeding, you can do a lot, and Underwood obviously wants to do a lot. He wants to hit the downfield throws. He wants to, be productive in college and ball out. That's why he originally committed to LSU, and that's why he played at Belleville in high school. However, at the same time with how Michigan's built, if he's struggling or if he just can't get protected by his O-line in the passing game, Michigan can easily use him in the running game, and they can give him a break here and there if he's really getting hit hard. I like how these players and how this roster lines up with Michigan's schedule. I don't think it's any coincidence their win total is 9.5 and it moved up from 8.5, and that their playoff odds are plus 210. I mean, this Michigan team, the analytics say it, the players say it, the roster says it. This is a top 20, top 15 team more likely than a team that goes 7-5 yet again in the 2025 season after going 7-5 and really failing, missing a massive opportunity in 2024. I think Michigan's 5 most impactful players yet again are Bryce Underwood, Rashawn Benn, Justice Haynes, Derek Moore, and Damon Payne. And, of course, pay attention to Greg Crippen, Giovanni El-Hadi, offensive lineman, Ernest Hausman, Jayshon Barham at linebacker, Rod Moore at safety. Michigan missed his presence last year, and if he somehow gets healthy, he could be a huge impact player this year, just based on the type of injury. I don't think he'll be fully healthy this year. It'll take him a while to get fully healthy. But those are my top 5 impact players for the Michigan Wolverines. I think Michigan's going to have a successful year in 2025. Thank you for watching College Football with Sam. Make sure that you've liked the video, subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and team playlists and podcasts in the description, joined the free Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, and have commented your thoughts down below. Check out the description for any ways you can support the channel monetarily. Everything else I've asked you to do is completely free, and your support means the world to me. We're trying to become the next big thing on college football YouTube. 6-figure subscribers, maybe 1 million one day. I think we can do that. And also check out any videos or playlists, anything in these columns right here, where there will be videos and playlists. Yeah, you get the point. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.